Well, hello again, my brothers and sisters. I'd like to thank you for watching my video and giving me this opportunity. I'd like to thank the people that commented on it. I was surprised that I actually got some views and some comments, and nice ones too. Thank you much. Tonight I'm actually gonna do something. And I've been giving this a lot of thought. Now, first of all, I'm gonna qualify it with a couple of things. I'm totally exhausted. I've had a very rough day. It's 10:30 at night, something like that, and I'm drinking a cup of coffee to try to wake up a little bit so I can get through this thing. The other thing that I need to tell you is anything I say should not be construed as legal advice. And I have to say that because I'm not a lawyer or a liar. I guess they're both about the same thing, as we'll come to see here as this goes on. In fact, most of our woes in this world today are because of the professional liars that are members of the Bar Association. And if I offend any of you, oh well, too bad. Get a real job. And quit extorting people and selling them into slavery. Anyway, the other thing that I need to make a little bit of a disclaimer on is that you may get some spiritual advice tonight. And the prudent man would look at spiritual advice as spiritual opinion on anything related to the law, anything related to the spiritual aspects of your life or of my life should be taken as opinion only, and you should do your own due diligence. Now, I don't really remember the quote, and I was going to look it up and just didn't. But I believe it was Thomas Jefferson that said something to the effect of, "He who wants liberty and ignorance shall have neither, for neither has been nor can it ever be." So we can't afford to be ignorant, and we can't afford to be ignorant about what's going on around us. I've been very naive throughout my life, and I have a tendency to be too trusting because of how I think of myself. Whether or not that's truly what I am, I don't know, because the psychologists will tell us there's three of us. There's who the world sees, there's who you see, and there's who you really are. I guess that'd be who Yah sees. So, with that all said, I think that I'm going to call this video, "Do You Know That You Know?" Now, that's kind of a strange title, but I'd like everybody to ponder that for a second. Do you really know that you know? What do you really know? Your name? Your birth date? Well, think about that for a minute. Because under the rules of evidence, you are not qualified to get on a witness stand and testify to your name or your birth date because you do not have first-hand knowledge of either one. Do you remember when you were born? Do you remember what your mother first called you? If you don't, then you're not a qualified witness. You cannot swear under oath. But yet, we assume many, many times that we know things when we don't know them. And that is so dangerous. And one of the things that this is supposed to be the purpose of this channel is to cause everyone who hears my videos to think and to start developing a little more sharper critical thinking skills. Now, I feel so bad for the generation nowadays because they really don't teach thinking skills. They don't teach the Socratic method for the most part. Remember that? Who, what, when, where, why, how? Some of us who are a little older got a touch of it, but not like they did back in the 1800s, because they've been dumbing us down. They've been dumbing us down for a reason. It's because there are two systems in the world, and we must volunteer into either one. There is the system of Yahuwah, Elohim, the Almighty, the creator of all who is, and there's the system of Hasatan, the adversary, the devil, whatever you want to call him, the beast. And his system is most properly called the beast because of what's written in Revelation. Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. He talks about the scarlet woman riding on the beast. Remember that one? or the beast in Revelation 13. There's two of them. One comes out of the sea, the other one comes out of the earth. And the thing is, you are going to be in servitude to somebody. I am going to be in servitude to somebody. Too much of my life, I've been in servitude to the wrong somebody. And I'm really trying to do my due diligence and to be assured that I'm now serving the right somebody, that I'm serving the Most High. That's why I feel compelled to do this, because I've made a bunch of mistakes in my life. But through them, I've gained some knowledge, maybe a little bit of wisdom. I still don't think I'm all that bright, because I make dumb decisions all the time. But, you know, I just think, that I'm not like I used to be. I'm not as naive as I used to be. I'm not as ignorant as I used to be. And I've started learning to apply critical thinking skills in a couple areas of my life on occasion. But, I'm quick to throw them down and start acting off emotion rather than thinking things out too. So see, it's from a very long time ago for most of us. From almost the time we were born, we've been indoctrinated. And we've been indoctrinated by the system to become servants of the system. Well, that verse in Revelation, I can't remember if it's 17 or 18. I'm not going to look it up. You can do your due diligence and look it up. I narrowed it down to 2 chapters. I got an idea where it's at. But I think that anybody that is truly sincere about wanting to do their due diligence and to wanting to obey Yah could take a minute, turn through their Bible to those 2 chapters, and look for the verse that says, "Come out of her, my people, lest you share in her abominations and her punishment." And that's a very loose paraphrase. It's not correct at all. But that's what it says. It says if you stay in her, in the beast system, that you are going to share in her punishments, which is, pretty bad. Pretty bad. Read the whole area there. Then go up and read Revelation 20, Revelation 21. Look what's going on there, because, there's a lot of mysteries about the book of Revelation. But, there's a lot of good information in there too. And you don't have to be some kind of a spiritual guru to take something away from it. I will tell you, though, I found that Zephaniah's book is a really good one to read in conjunction with Revelation, because it kind of gives an overview of where we're at right now and where we're going and of the ultimate victory. So right now we're being bombarded with fear porn, and Messiah told us that when we see certain things coming near to us, nigh, to lift our heads up and rejoice, for our redemption draws nigh. Now, how in the world are we supposed to lift our heads up and rejoice when we look at a time in history that's called the time of Jacob's trouble in Jeremiah chapter 30? It's called a time that's so bad there's never been a time like it, and there'll never be a time like it again, by both Messiah and by Daniel, and I believe the 12th chapter of Daniel. It is 12. Pretty sure. And I didn't read any of these verses, by the way, tonight, so I'm really flying by the seat of my pants, and that's really all I've got time for. A lot of you know my sister Sherry, and she's quite ill right now. We had to take her to the hospital by ambulance yesterday, and so I've been doing double duty today. And well, triple duty if you want to talk about me taking care of her things, taking care of my things, and then taking care of her also. So I'm quite tired tonight, so forgive me. But unfortunately, like everyone, I would rather procrastinate than do it. And the only way this is going to get going is if I start making a few notes here and there, start laying a little groundwork here and there, and start actually saying something that's of some value to people. And if I start doing it on a consistent basis. So I made a little goal to myself that I was going to do another video. and that I was going to do it within this time frame, getting it done sometime today or tonight. Got up this morning and almost did it first thing. Kind of wish I would have, but there was too much stuff happening. Just, it wasn't going to be. But I refused to lay my head down for the night until I did what I said I was going to do. And I'm wanting to wonder where it is at, if it is in Isaiah 33 or if it's in Psalm 15, where one of the qualities that Yah looks for is a person that when they say they're going to do something, they keep that word even if it's to their own harm. And do I do that all the time? No, I'm not consistent. I have moments of consistency, just like the moments of clarity where I use critical thought. But it's a growing process. You know, I went over to the computer and turned it on and went to Parable of the Vineyard Channel to look up last Friday night's lesson, the one that was so controversial. And, you know, tonight is the 9th, and I'm just too tired to even do the math and tell you the date of what it was, but y'all can look it up. But there was some really lively conversation that night on the name and what the true name of Yah was and what the true name of Yahusha was. And one thing that's really stood out at me was how I perceived different people were in different places spiritually. I think that my purpose for this, my main motivation, is twofold. I don't want to see anybody go to the lake of fire. Nobody. I don't want to see Hitler go to the lake of fire. Well, maybe Hitler, but you know what I mean. It's pretty extreme. So that kind of tells you how important sin is. And I'm still getting this concept, and sometimes I forget it. Sometimes I screw up. You know, that's why I'm thankful that 1 John tells us we have an advocate with the Father. And I don't know about any of you, but I've got this demon that I've carried around on my shoulder, whispering in my ear that it's already too late. You've already screwed up. You've already went too far. And I've given in to that a couple of times, almost to the point of walking away and agreeing and just saying, yeah, you're right. It's too late for me. But I've decided that would be to limit the power of Yah and the power of the atonement of Yahusha's blood. And it would also be making a judgment. Who am I to judge me? However, if it were true, there's also many passages that show the great reward that there is in living your life according to Yah's laws. So either way, if I lose, I win. If I win, I lose, as long as I walk in his laws. But I'm really kind of doubting with all of the evidence that I see, the things that, it's called empirical evidence, the things that you can see around you, the way situations just happen to work out in your life, and that kind of lets you know that something good's on your side and helping you. But it's also good to question those things, because sometimes something that's good turns out to be from a bad source, and it's a lie, you know? So, but anyway, do you know that you know? And also, you might do to ask yourself, do you know what you don't know? Now, it's really, both of those have got some pretty heavy philosophical components to them, in my opinion. But let's go back to law for just a second, because ultimately, my goal is to help people to see how to come out of the Babylonish system without having to do the things that I've done and get the education that I've gotten. I've told everybody I've been to jail many times, been to prison 5 times, and I've worked a couple times as a law clerk in prison, because I've studied law for quite a while. Excuse me. I've studied mostly the statutory law, the codes, their way of doing things, the way that the beast system is set up, and how to manipulate and maneuver in that system. But then a couple of years ago, I was involved when a friend of mine died out here. I'm in a retirement subdivision. He was 86 years old, and his daughter, who was 70 years old, a great lady, lives in Brandon, Mississippi. And I had to help her to get through the disposal of the estate. And we had all kinds of problems with a couple of the kids. She was in Mississippi, so she needed somebody to act as her agent. They call that an attorney in fact. So, but that's just a fancy word for an agent, just a fancy word for a flunky. I was just a set of boots on the ground, basically. But in doing so, and getting out and finding her a lawyer and that probated the will and took care of settling the estate and all of that, I got introduced to the concept of trusts. And since that time, I have been trying to decode trusts. And that's not the easiest one to figure out, because a lot of all of the smartest people in the world, the elite, the ones that have all the money, Donald Trumps of the world, oh no, he's not our savior, by the way, Yahusha is. The Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, they all hide behind trusts. David Rockefeller's famous quote was that the trick is to own nothing and control everything. And it's been said that the Rockefellers had everything that they own hidden in over 7,000 different trusts. And what that does, a trust is what they call a legal fiction. And it doesn't really exist. It's a phantom. Okay? It's in the land of the dead. And oh, by the way, you're dead. You just don't know it. Do you believe me? Your birth certificate is actually a death certificate. Do you believe me? Go do your due diligence. There's plenty of places on YouTube where people can explain it better than I can. But I'll give you a little overview of it. If you take out your driver's license, or you go get your water bill or your light bill, you'll notice that your name is spelled in all capital letters. Okay, now that's very significant, because if you look on, I'm going to get this wrong going off of memory, as to which one it is, I don't think I will. It's page 666 of the Chicago Manual of Style, which tells you how to capitalize, how to put in punctuation. That's what a Manual of Style does. Because, see, there has to be some kind of a standard for all of this stuff that we do, or else everybody's just doing their own thing, and it just becomes more babble than we already have. So the Chicago Manual of Style on page 666 says that there's no convention in the English language for a proper noun or a word to be spelled in all capital letters. That actually has a name. It's called American Sign Language, and it's also called Dog Latin, okay, which is the Latin of the unlearned. And you don't need to know all this stuff. This is just kind of background information. You need to realize it, but you don't need to know the things that I'm telling you to be able to quote them or anything, unless it's, you're called to do what I'm doing. But I do believe it's been very important for me in all of my ventures in this life to have some kind of an understanding of the underlying reasons for things. For example, I'm a carpenter, and things didn't start clicking for me back when I was a teenager working for my dad on building houses until I understood why we had to have that wall level so that the roof would fit together just right, and so this would happen and that would happen. When I started understanding that, then I started understanding the importance of the details. And I've done that with other things in my life that I've learned also. I play guitar. It helped me to understand the whys of certain things with music. I'm a horticulturist. I needed to have an underlying understanding of certain things in order to cause plants to grow correctly, in order to manage those plants correctly and apply the correct cultural practices to them. You know, if you keep them wet all the time, if the plants always have wet feet, you're going to promote fungal diseases. You know, there's reasons. And when you start understanding a little bit about the reasons, and if you think about your own occupation or your own endeavors in this life, I think you'll see that there's things that you yourself have had to understand a little bit about the reason why. Okay, so that's why I'm going to be giving you some of this information. But don't think this is like a law class that you're going to have to learn how to quote the Constitution or the compiled statutes of your state or anything like that. No, not at all. That would defeat my entire goal, because my goal with this is, and what I think would make the most accepting of my effort. See, I have a hard time saying make him happy with me, because my self-esteem, with all I've done, how can I say that? But the most accepting of my effort is that if I do it a certain way and I try to make the relevant points of this as easy to understand and to apply as possible for as many people as possible. Truth of the matter is, studying law will kick your butt. When I got into trusts and I started searching, I had gotten to the point in the study of law that I was quite interested in it. And there was about, half a dozen times maybe in 1 year that I sat down in front of the computer. I had 3 computers on my desk at the time, and I sat down in front of the computer and I didn't get up for 48 hours until I had to pass out. I found it fascinating, and I was also starving for the knowledge. And there's been times that I've went to the law library and I've done a half hour's research and had to come home and take a nap because my head was spinning so bad. You know, I mean, it can really take it out of you. Just recently, I've got a couple of misdemeanors outstanding, and I think that I've come a long way out of the beast system. I've still got a couple of things that have got to be taken care of. And I know a way to come out officially. But the problem with it is I have to ask Satan's permission to come out of Satan's system. And I'm not going to do that. I can't do that. That's making a bargain with the devil. Well, think about that for a minute. A lot of people do it. It's called the secured party creditor. Excuse me. It has to do with something as filing a UCC1 financing statement and then taking control of your straw man, which is that dead entity. I told you were dead. And you could look on your driver's license and you could see, because that name on your driver's license is not you. That name on your light bill is not you. It's spelled in all capital letters. It represents a legal fiction that has the same name that you have. And in Latin, see, they like to use Latin, and there's 3 levels of Latin too. So they don't even let us get access to the top level of Latin. There's the classic and proper Latin that they use, the owners of the world, they use that. And then there's a couple levels below it, ending up with the dog Latin, which is the Latin of the dummies. But where was I going with that on the Latin? I forgot. Doesn't matter. We'll pick it back up. It'll come up if it's Yah's will. But on that legal fiction, that dog Latin name, that is not your name. It goes back to something called Corpus Juris Civilis, which is the Roman civil law, which is in fact what we're under today in this country. Believe it or not, we're under Roman law. And that's one of the reasons why I think that, I'm convinced of this, that the United States is a big portion of the beast system and has a big role to play. Whether or not it's Babylon the Great, don't know. But I know it has something to do with Rome, and we're under a Romish system in this country. So I don't have all the answers on it, but hopefully I have enough that I need. And I feel that I could do this UCC1 filing and muddle through that system and come out of the system that way. But see, even if you do that, you got to refile it every 5 years. So you're not really coming out of anything. But the bottom line here is there's the land of the living, and there's the land of the dead. Jude says something. I did bring my glasses. Good. And I'm going to actually pick this up and read it because I think it's very, very important. I like this little Bible. It's New King James Version, but the thing that I like about it is it's the size of a paperback. And so when I'm tired and don't want to lift up a Bible, this one's a whole lot easier to lift up than that Sefer, which weighs 3 or 4 pounds. You can lay down and read this like a paperback. Anyway, I'm just going to pick up the narrative here with verse 9. Yet Michael the archangel, contending with the devil, when he disputed about the body of Moses, dare not bring against him a reviling accusation, but said, Yahuwah rebuke you. But these speak evil of what they do not know, and whatever they know naturally, like brute beasts, in these things they corrupt themselves. Woe to them, for they have gone the way of Cain, have run greedily in the error of Balaam for profit, and perished in the rebellion of Korah. These are spots in your love feasts, while they feast with you without fear, serving only themselves. They are clouds without water. See, this is going to be some allegories, metaphors, what have you, in this next sentence. They are clouds without water, carried about by the winds, late autumn trees without fruit. But here's the interesting part. Twice dead, pulled up by the roots. And that's what I wanted to tell you and wanted you to see, is this phrase, twice dead, pulled up by the roots. So you see, even if it seems like those that are the elite, those that are the cream of the crop, if it seems like things are going real good for them, you should actually feel pity for them, because they're twice dead. They're going to die a physical death in this life, and then they're going to die the eternal death of damnation in the age to come. So that's what I really hope to avoid. That's what I really hope that as many of you as possible can avoid. The truth of the matter is, Adam's studies at Parable of the Vineyard, I believe it was from 2nd Esdras where he was reading, or else Jubilees. I'm pretty sure it was Esdras, but he's shown us some things from that book that pretty much says that most people aren't going to make it. And if most people aren't going to make it, man, when I read that, when I heard that, when I went and looked it up for myself, did a little bit of my due diligence on it, that kind of scared me, kind of motivated me. It shows me that that I am up against a big competition. There's a bunch of people in this world. When I started thinking about the 144,000 and divided by 7 billion, and I just kind of did it in my head, it came to something like 1 in 40,000. Well, that's the kind of a number that I can wrap my head around. But see, fortunately, there's also another group that's mentioned in Revelation chapter 7 besides the 144,000. Then he talks about seeing a group, a great multitude that no man could number because there were so many of them. And it says of them that when he couldn't figure it out, he asked the angel that was with him, and I think the angel actually asked him first, and then the angel told him that these are the ones that come out of the great tribulation, who have washed their clothes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Now, that's a little bit intense for some people to try to pick apart exactly what's being said there. But coming out of the great tribulation, see, those are the martyrs. Those are the ones that are chastened in the great tribulation and do truly repent. Those are the ones that are martyred in the great tribulation. Those are the ones that die. in the Great Tribulation. Those are the ones that it's not all in vain, though, because they actually make some changes and come to true repentance in this life while there's still hope. Because, see, in the Great Tribulation, there still is hope. There's hope if a person will take it not as something personal against them and turn their wrath towards their Creator, but instead they sincerely do some introspection, look at their own lives and how they've failed, feel ashamed, cry out, and want to change and cry out for help from their loving and compassionate Heavenly Father to help them. Because, see, that's going to be a hard time. It's going to be a bad time. And none of us will come through that with our salvation intact without the help of Yah, without the Ruach HaKodesh. It's got to be this power of Yah that brings us through something that bad, like that. I once mentioned a time in the county jail where I spent, in my last video, I spent underneath the bottom bunk, curled up in the corner, trying to find some darkness, and just with mental anguish that was so bad that I would beg Yah to take it for just 15 minutes, because I wanted to take this little, they had a wristband on you, and there's a little aluminum piece on there that I thought I could probably get that off and open up a vein with it. And it was so bad that I seriously considered that. But see, I had enough experience with reading the Bible that I knew that that would be the wrong thing to do. I'm just going to leave it at that. And so I asked for his help, and you know what? He helped me every time. When that mental anguish got to the point that I couldn't stand it, he helped me. And at the end of the day, I'm better for that experience. So the whys and whats of why I was in so much pain at that time is not important. But the fact is, we're coming up on a time when we're not only going to be in pain ourselves, we're going to witness a lot of pain. There's no way that I'm going to be able to do that on my own, unassisted. And, excuse me, from what I've read about the 144,000, it appears to be the group that's being talked about in Jeremiah chapter 9 also. Is it Ezekiel? Well, it's Jeremiah. Those, I'm trying to figure out how to do this without getting too technical. Keep it easy for everybody to understand who maybe doesn't have a lot of experience reading yet. See, because there are a lot of what I like to call, and this is not at all derogatory, and not at all, because I am in many ways there right now myself. But there are a lot of baby Hebrews, baby Netzarim out there, you know, and we're all in different levels of spiritual growth. Now, some ways I've grown quite a bit, and there's other ways that I'm not even crawling yet. I've never been in a position to keep the holy days except on my own. One time my sister and I were able to keep a Passover, and, well, no, we kept some more holy days than that, but never other than with ourselves. But one time I was able to keep a Passover with a group that I feel was in a lot of error. So in that area, I'm a baby. I'm a baby Hebrew. I'm a baby Netzarim. I'm a real baby when it comes to speaking this Hebrew. I mean, I love that Sefer. That thing messes me up. I can't pronounce all those words, and it's a lot of times just doing the translating and the mental gymnastics I have to do to get through it. It's just like reading a law book. Well, in fact, it is a law book. But I'm getting off topic, off point. No, I'm going to try to get back on point a little bit. So, well, let me make sure I'm going somewhere along my notes here. See, I was going to talk about a couple of things tonight here, and I wanted to get to a certain point, but I don't want this to be a long video, because I am putting in a couple principles in here that I don't want to get washed away by things that come after them. So, like the statement, do you know what you know? Or do you know what you think you know? Do you know what you don't know? Now, we talked about that. We talked about the hearsay, the fact that that's all that is, your birthday, your name. For most of us, especially if our parents are dead and gone, you know, well, even if they're alive, it's still considered hearsay because I don't have firsthand knowledge of my name. I wasn't there when I was named. I don't have firsthand knowledge of when I took my first breath. And later on, we'll get into something really interesting about that too, because when we came into being was at the moment of fertilization, not when we were born. And that's one of the big tricks that they use against us. And even what they call the moment of conception is a time that's about 14 days after the moment of fertilization, because the zygote, the newly formed embryo, floats around for about 14 days and then it embeds in the wall. And because of that, this is just a little side note for curiosity's sake. Besides that, the legal dictionaries consider a human being a monster because when you're born, you are coming out of your mother's womb, you embedded into that placenta, and your DNA mixed with her DNA. Yet, while you were that floating zygote during that first 14 days, you contained 23 chromosomes from your mother and 23 chromosomes from your father. And you were a pure new being. Okay? Now, and when you think of it, I'm getting distracted. I'm using Sherry's phone and she's got all those apps on there. So something just flashed on the screen. When you think of it, you know, your parents didn't really do anything but bring the building materials to the building site. It was Yah that gave that spark of life when the conception took place. That's when the magic happened. That's when the moment of what they call biogenesis, when life came from life. That's when that all took place. But now in the legal dictionary, they use conception because we assume that conception is when the ovum and the sperm comes together at the moment of fertilization. But it's not. It's when the zygote embeds in the uterine wall. Well, that assumption causes us to make a fatal error later on when we start trying to get into how to legally escape through, you know, going through their system and jumping through their hoops and all of that. And like I say, I think I've found the way of escape through that system, jumping through those hoops. But it's really overcomplicating it. A lot of you might remember back in the 80s, there was a movie called War Games, where a young kid, I don't know, 15, 16 years old, hacked into a computer. And it was a defense computer, and it was called Whopper. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, but better have a little sip of that coffee after all, huh? And for those of you that remember this movie, Whopper was a war computer. But it had some other options like playing chess and playing this game, playing that game on it. And when he hacked into it, there was this list of games, and at the bottom of the list, I believe it was the bottom, doesn't matter, it said thermonuclear war. So he chose that option. And then for the rest of the movie, it's about this kid and his girlfriend and this crazy doctor trying to keep the United States from launching all of their missiles based on the false data that the Whopper computer was giving out to the guys at Cheyenne Mountain, NORAD, the people that watch for, you know, things like that. And right at the end, all these different scenarios start playing on the scenes, and missiles start launching in all different, you know, different ways and different ways that they could possibly launch, different combinations, and everything goes black. And then the computer turns everything back on after an appropriately long delay to build up the drama. And then the computer said, I figured out that the only way to win is not to play. And that is exactly what we have to do. The only way to win against Satan is not to play. Not to play with Satan, not to move around on the periphery of his system, not trying to exploit the system, and trying to come to the understanding that this life is nothing but a preparatory school for the age to come. Now, sometimes I can get that. Sometimes I can do real good. Other times I just get caught up. I get jealous. I get mad. I get whatever it is. And I lose it. See, that's where my shortcomings come and just mess everything up. But this is not what we're supposed to look forward to. It's not about what we can get in this life and how much pleasure we can take in this life. It's about preparing ourselves for the age to come and about doing whatever's necessary, even to the point of giving up our life, if that's what's asked of us, for the kingdom. There goes that stupid phone again. But you notice that I still haven't changed the little setup here. Got my curtain up on the wall, and my light there, and a smartphone to record on. And I probably won't, because I'm not looking for any kind of glory from men on this. I really and truly, I want to help. And there's a reason for that, too. And it's a selfish reason. See, I believe that mostly men are, in one way or another, motivated by selfishness. And even the most unselfish person is motivated by selfishness to some extent, because they're selfish about being unselfish. It's hard to wrap your mind around that. It's kind of a philosophical thing, and I might be full of something because I'm thinking of it that way. But the beast system, like I say, I've come out of the beast system, and because of that, life's a lot harder than it is for a lot of people in many ways, and I don't have as many options available to me. I'm not all the way out of the beast system. I'm trying to get into a position where I can be 100% out of the beast system, and I've got something brewing. I want to be very careful because I haven't asked this person if I could mention anything about them, and I don't want to, but I've talked to another YouTuber which has a big channel. He deals in trust law. His specialty is in trust law, while mine is in criminal and civil law. And I've tried to get into the trust law, but I found that the elite have hidden all of the salient points, the things that I need to know, that I had already started coming out of the system, and I just don't have the money to buy $200, $300, $400 books. I don't even have a law dictionary that's not online. I've just got some free law books that the guy that works at the law library, the librarian, that he's given me out of the goodness of his heart, because they're a couple years old and they're going to get thrown away. But even these simple paperbacks are $300, $400. A good hardback law book can run up $1,500. I know that there's about a 4-inch thick book on hearsay, which is one of the roughest laws of evidence, and it can go up over $2,000. So that stuff's expensive. And it's so piecemeal that a person would need a very deep pocket to hold the money that they would have the books that they would need to study this out on their own, to buy them and study it out on their own. So I use the computer. I'm very thankful that we have the computer, and I have to go down to the law library from time to time to do my research. But anyway, I don't want you to have to do that. I want you to understand that it's as simple as don't play. Now, to not play is going to require personal sacrifice. And I'm not going to even really touch on that tonight. But if you can come away from this with the idea that there is man's way, which is basically based on selfishness and is basically being immersed in the beast system, and you don't have to be a Charles Manson to be immersed in the beast system. So some of the best people that you know are drowning in the beast system. But there's the beast system, and there's a system of our Heavenly Father, Yahuwah Elohim. Now that's going to bring me to another point that I want to make tonight. And it's the beginning of what I want to show you about critical thinking. And I'm having to slow down and think as I say these things, because on some things I don't want to be offensive, and on other things I don't want to get in over people's heads, because I can have a tendency to do that. The other thing that I wanted to talk about with the critical thinking is a principle of logic, and it's called the law of non-contradiction. Now, the law of non-contradiction is the second most important thing that you can take away from this tonight that I'm going to speak about. And what that is that's a principle that's completely and totally immutable. It always works. It's always there, and it'll always be this way. And what it says is a thing either is or it isn't. It can't both be and not be at the same time and in the same state. Okay, and you can think of a million examples of that. You know, if the light's red, it can't be green. Well, I suppose it could if it was broken. It's like the have your cake and eat it too. You know, that's a flagrant example of a violation of the law of non-contradiction, and it can't happen. That's what that is saying. But saying have your cake and eat it too, it's because we all inherently know this law of non-contradiction. Something can't both be and not be at the same time. That we all know that when I say, well, he wants to have his cake and eat it too, I'm saying that he wants something that's impossible. You know, and that goes so many places in this life that's applicable. If you can think in the terms, if you can slow down and critically think, use your intelligence, the thing that sets us above the beasts of the field, rather than use your emotions. So that can be pretty hard to do. Then you add a little drugs and alcohol to it, it can get a little harder and a little harder until pretty soon it's impossible to do. You know, it don't take that much. It don't take that much influence of many things that are mind-altering, from sitting in front of the computer watching YouTube videos, playing video games, to just anything. Those things out of whack will tend to lessen your ability to think critically and to slow down and use your intellect rather than your emotions. It's like the old saying, being led around by your heart. You know, that's not a good way to go, because there's a proverb that says, basically, and here again, loose paraphrase, he who trusts his own heart is a fool. How many times have we heard people say, oh yeah, but God knows my heart? Well, yeah, he does. And he told you about it. He said, if you trust your heart, you're a fool. But then again, and I'll never get this one, Psalms, maybe it's Psalm 33. It talks about how Yahuwah fashions hearts individually. So he works with us. And I'm so grateful for that, because if I had his job, I would have zapped me long ago. I don't have near the patience that he has. And that's all the more reason to praise him, because I really wouldn't want to be zapped now or at the end of the age. And that's why I'm trying to put the effort in to do my due diligence and to share the things that I've been blessed with knowing, because there's another passage in there, and I like to get as many answers as I can when I'm slowing down and using my critical thinking. I like to get as many answers to this life out of the Bible. And now that I took the time to explain it, I forgot the one I was going to refer to. I told you I'm tired tonight. I am beat. It'll come to me. If it's Yah's will. There's a time that I would have gotten the Bible and gotten the concordance. No, wait a minute. We got to find it. No. No, not anymore. If I've forgotten it, it might not be appropriate. It might be Yah's way of telling me it's not appropriate. I'm trying to do it my way instead of his way. So I've noticed that when I be studying with somebody, something can come up and I'm looking for John 3:16 and it doesn't seem like it's in the Bible. Well, you know, every first year Sunday schooler knows where John 3:16 is. But yet, because it's a manifestation of me wanting to do it my way, it keeps me from being able to find it. Looks like I'm going to have the coughing fit again. I'm sorry, folks. But anyway, we pretty much covered the points that I wanted to cover tonight. And the only other thing I think that I wanted to... there are actually two things that I wanted to cover yet. And I kind of did on the last one, when I was talking about Yah's way or Satan's way. And I've kind of touched on trusts a little bit, because everything comes back to trusts. And as we go on, you're going to learn that the Bible is a trust indenture. And that comes, this is probably the only really technical thing I'm going to give you about it, is Genesis 1:26. Man is told to have dominion, and man is told to take care of the earth. He's given a charge. That's a trust indenture. Okay, and I'm not going to even explain any more about that. But Genesis 1:26. That kind of says it. It says a lot more than you think it says, and hopefully, over the course of time, we can get to some of that. But what was the other thing I had? Actually, I think that's just about it, except the hearsay thing, which I covered, and I think I'm going to have to cut this video a little bit short, because I'm having a coughing fit now, and it doesn't seem to want to go away. So thank you all for listening, and I'm going to try to get back here a little more often. And may God bless all of you. Good night.